Welcome to Onesies, a podcast of onesies and wonders and blenders. My name is Andrew.
My name's Emily.
And we are recording live in person today because this episode...
The stars have aligned.
Just perfectly.
Just perfectly for us to talk about our new favorite television show. And our favorite episode of our favorite television show, Dweebs.
Yes, Dweebs from 1995, a CBS sitcom. So this episode is episode 2, The Privacy Show. This show has 10 episodes. I'm surprised it has 3, actually. Yeah, so this episode is about the guys.
Let me say something really quickly before we dive into this.
Okay.
Every episode from here on out, the first one, last week's episode, folks, was the pilot. Every single episode directed by a woman. The same woman.
Pamela Fryman directed all of them?
Every single one.
Pamela Fryman is an excellent Frasier director.
And How I Met Your Mother, apparently all but 12 episodes of a too long running TV show.
So, wow. Hashtag feminism. We can talk about that when it gets appropriate. So, I had forgotten before I watched it that we were going to see the change between pilot and regular series. And so I believe The Office is a little bit different, just a little.
I didn't catch any of the details, but I'll take your word for it.
I didn't. The window was the same, so I got confused, but I swear there's like a longer. I think their desks are slightly different in some way, especially Carrie's. So the episode begins with Carrie, played by Farrah Fork, trying to force Peter Scolari to say good morning to her. This might have been when the laugh track started.
It never stopped.
And the laugh track never stops. So the way the laugh track works is someone says something, laugh track, something else, nothing, something else, laugh track.
Yes.
And it appears to be the same exact sound over and over again because
There's no diversification of that laugh track.
Because no one laughed. So, but yes, so Peter Scolari says he's not a morning he says he doesn't want to say hello.
He doesn't say hello. He's not the type of person who says hello. And he's doing the hemming and the hawing and the stammering nonsense that is very frustrating. But will come into play later. Can't express himself. It's a workplace, Farrah Fork. It's a workplace. I don't need to be friendly with these people. They worship me. I'm a god.
I mean, you're making fun of this, but this is also reality. So...
Am I making fun of it?
I don't know. Maybe we're watching this because you were trying to get some ideas for
how to manage a
small office of men. Exclusively men.
Yeah.
Except for the women in the background who get no lines. Hashtag feminism. Because they don't get that SAG card on CBS's dime. Okay, so the boys are then either there or they come in. So she talks to them.
And asks them each about their weekend.
Yes.
Which is Stephen Dablowski says something like, sad and lonely, just like every other day. And it's like, oh boy. And Vic, I forget what Vic's...
Is that Corey Feldman?
Corey Feldman.
Corey Feldman has been up for 4 days coding.
Right.
And so he does a whole
thing... Cracking
code. He does a whole thing about how insomnia works.
Oh,
which might not be wrong, but I think day 5 is when you just start dying.
I actually thought that was kind of funny. I mean, in a dark way. I did not laugh out loud funny,
I don't necessarily know that Corey Feldman isn't the best performance this episode.
Fair enough.
So there is that we get to discuss. And then she goes over to the other guy, Morley, who I can't remember what he says because...
Something about being allergic to things. I don't know. That just seems to be what he does.
Yeah. And then they talk about lunch, and she says, well, I can't go to lunch with you today because I'm already going to lunch. And then, as I always say, whenever you're late for the podcast, I say, Emily, is it because you were at the gynecologist? And you say yes. And you say, that's why I married one.
Never late to the podcast. I think I set the time for the podcast.
You did once end the podcast early to pet an animal, so...
That's because I don't usually have cats in my office.
Okay. That would be a better episode of this show. So, instead, we find out that she is going to go to lunch with a man.
A man, like a proper man, we find out later.
A proper man named Ben. Ben. So, the boys all make faces or something, and then we sort of fast forward to Ben arriving. And he is a Kansas City department store model level of handsome.
Yep.
He is nobody you've ever heard of.
Handsome-y in a suit and a Wall Street bro.
Yeah. In 1994. How did you manage to find a show that dated this poorly, but it's from 1995, Emily?
1995 was like...
49 years ago.
30 years ago.
30 years ago.
It was so long ago, Andrew.
It was a long time ago. Women, I gotta tell you, might not have been people yet, based on this show, which we will discuss more.
Except that Farrah Fork, Carrie, has a lot of influence in this. It's like a surprising amount of influence. I guess that being said, it's because they all want to do her, right?
Yes.
Like,
yes,
or doesn't Feldog just make a joke about wanting to oil her up?
That is him getting in touch with his feelings at the end, yes.
Gross.
Yes, and it is very... okay, so Ben comes in, everybody meets him, everybody's shitty to him, and he's just kind of like, oh, Carrie told me about you guys, you're so funny.
You're the guys. Oh my god, that drove me crazy. Carrie told me all about you. And it's like, and then how come you don't know their names? Dipshit. Hey, you're the guys. And it's like, you could have picked any 4 men in the office and been like, hey, are you the guys? Until you got to the right guys.
Yep.
Whatever. Who cares?
Well, they refer to them as the guys the rest of the season. That's what I
hope not.
What year was Big Bang Theory? Like 2003, didn't it start or something? I mean, you have the tattoo. You've got to know. The Johnny Galecki face tattoo on your shoulders is weird.
I hate you for that.
Well, you know.
I hate you so much. 2007.
Okay, so 12 years later. And IT Crowd was, of course,
2006.
6. So we have the stock guy go, I'm kind of the tech guy too. I change everybody's colors. So
I thought that was funny.
What is very funny about the show about computers in 1995 is, of course, this is not like tied to Windows 95's release. It's not like they had early Windows 95. They've got like DOS programs or fake or turned off things. I think Morley has like a Mac of that era, but its screen is always off because like we're not paying for that.
Right.
But just this idea of computer nerds in this way, like the IT Crowd moves them to the IT department.
Right.
This is just like...
They run a business that is internet. You know, it's like, that's their business. They're not working in any office.
Right.
Any public building, they're in a department of a company. This is the company.
Yes.
Internet is the company.
I don't think they're online like that, though. I think they.
Well, we find out that they are.
Well, that's a little different because it's also a sneakers spinoff. So.
I don't know what sneakers are. Like shoes?
Big sigh. Just a big sigh. They loved you at your video store when you were a teenager, Emily. They loved you.
This one?
Yes! Look at that fucking cast. Come on now. Anyway. You really haven't seen Sneakers.
I've never seen it. Why would I see it?
Didn't you like River Phoenix as a youth?
I was a little too young for River Phoenix. I mean, he was a cutie patootie, but
David Strathairn.
I love him. Shut up.
See, and it's one of his...
He better not be a baddie now.
He's not. I don't know. But he's good. He's a good guy. He's an adorable good guy in that. Anyway, we're not talking about that. We are talking about the privacy show, which is then they go to lunch. He kisses her on the cheek. She is called at a lunch date. So after they leave, Stephen Tobolowsky... Where did he go to college? Like, he wrote comedy at Princeton or some shit?
He was in Sneakers.
He was in Sneakers, yes. My voice is my toilet passport. Verify me.
That was cool. What a cool crossover.
Yeah, unintentional. So, he then says what I thought was going to be my favorite line of the episode, after the gynecologist thing, of course. Because we forgot to mention, the gynecologist bit turns into a lengthy bit where Morley gets confused and thinks she's taking her boyfriend on a date to the gynecologist because he's an idiot. And the laugh track...
And he's never had a girlfriend before,
playing.
So he doesn't know.
None of them have had girlfriends before. We are going to come to a point where the last episode is them killing a prostitute and Carrie helps them in exchange for...
And fucking the prostitute after she's dead. Sex worker.
Yeah, Morley, obviously.
Yeah.
Anyway, Corey Feldman kills her. Stephen Tobolowsky goes first, can't do it. Corey Feldman... Can, but kills her.
Absolutely can.
Maybe Peter Scolari kills her, but then Morley fucks her after she's dead. And then Carrie helps them cut her up. Okay. That's episode 11, folks. That's why it didn't stick around. But no, Stephen Tobolowsky, who's won awards, he's a renowned creative.
Yes.
He says, I bet they're doing it.
The delivery on that was so funny. Yep, they're doing it. It was the delivery, except obviously he does it better. It was so funny that I forgot that it was also creepy.
The laugh track agrees with you. Okay, so then I think we come back from commercial, and they start snooping on Ben online.
No, not until she comes back and gets flowers from Ben, because Vic steals the card, hacks into the flower shop's mainframe,
as one does,
discovers Ben's purchase, finds Ben's credit card information, which then leads to his social security card, which then yields all of this additional information, all within about 5 seconds.
Well,
I mean, enough time that he can narrate what he's doing.
Do you know how a computer works? I mean, come on, obviously. So...
I'm just not a hacker. Or a sneaker.
Okay. We also forgot when she gets the flowers, she says she's going to leave them on the desk to make sure everybody knows how much she likes me. To which I asked you,
yes,
what you have on your desk to show everyone how much your man likes you.
Photographs from a recent trip of me with various professional wrestlers that may or may not be hunks. That proves that my husband is willing to put up with a lot of shit, including me, quote-unquote, cucking him. Which did not technically happen, folks. I did not have sex with anybody in front of my...
I have no idea what this refers to, folks. If you want more information, email Mr. Emily at onesiespod.com. We're still seeing if onesiespod.feet is available.
Oh, gross.
Okay.
That's why I was told to wear socks around you.
Well, you know, sending you home with a bag of metal straws. Moving on to this fine show. So they look him up. Peter Scolari catches them and then helps them look him up.
It helps them look him up without getting caught.
Yes.
If you do it this way, they'll trace it back to you. But if you do it this way, they can't.
Right. They would trace it back to this business. Which seems... Okay. The next day, or something, Or after another commercial, but I don't think it's after another commercial break.
It's the next day because she comes in wearing a completely different outfit.
And the flowers have moved.
The flowers have moved.
But she needs Toby's help sending an email, which is when we get to see the DOS interface on her screen.
Oh, all of the thingies go away.
All the thingies.
That's right.
Which we then discover are called files, which is a weird way of sending email, but I don't think I sent emails in 1995. So anyway, she then discovers a file on her computer that says Ben. Stephen Tobolowsky and Corey Feldman scurry over to Morley and are like, dude, we told you to hide it. And he's like, I did. I gave it a code name. To which they say, uh-oh.
It's mostly Vic Feldog chastising him for using the man's name as a code word.
Oh, that was almost funny. It'd be like if we called the Normandy invasion, or if we, the Normandy invasion.
Yeah, the invasion of Normandy.
Well, that was when I realized, I'm like, oh my God, Corey Feldman might be the best performance this episode. Because Stephen Tobolowsky's starting to understand. Corey Feldman still thinks this is his ticket to the top. Spielberg's going to be on the phone again. So we then have her confront them, and they explain a little bit about it. Peter Scolari comes out and reveals that he's just hacked into his bank account or something. It doesn't matter. Something extra,
and also reveals to Carrie that Ben is about to get a raise and a corner office, a promotion.
This is the scene where Farrah Fawkes' performance just sort of shits the bed. Mm-hmm. Like in Trainspotting. Have you seen Trainspotting?
It's been a million years, but yeah.
Do you remember what I'm talking about?
I can only remember the dead baby crawling on the ceiling while he's having the...
That's intense. I was just thinking about that shit.
Because it traumatized me when I saw it in 1997 or wwhenever I saw it.
Should have watched Sneakers. It didn't have heroin in it.
I was a child.
What were you doing watching Sneakers as a child, or Trainspotting as a child? Good grief.
Right, my parents were terrible.
Okay.
And they're dead, so I can say that.
Wow.
Peter Scolari.
So then she's mad at Peter Scolari. And then she's just like, you need to promise me that you're never going to do this again. And they're like, okay.
And this is where I got confused. Mm-hmm. Because then she goes back to her desk and she's like, again, you've done this before. And it's like, no, you introduced them doing it again, as in a second time on top of this.
But they agreed with her.
But they did agree with her.
So that's a lot of deductive reasoning.
It's a lot. It's a lot. And then she's like, wait, you guys did this to me. And apparently there was no such thing as background checks. Maybe not to this extent.
Well, he said it was a background check for a job. And she's just like, Burr! And then...
But then they reveal that they know something about some bank loan that she's applied for.
And she asks if she...
Another kind of vaguely funny Stephen Tobolowsky line. And she's like, well, am I going to get it? And he's like, I think that's between us and your bank.
Yeah.
Like, I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah. And then she storms off to lunch. So there's nothing about Ben. Like, they didn't discover anything. He will not be back.
Not this episode.
Oh, good. Really? This guy's back on the show again? Wow. They were not spending that guest star money. Okay. So...
Too many main characters.
I mean, they stopped spending money on people starting with Morley, so... Okay. And then, of course, Corey Feldman's insurance. So she comes back from lunch and she's like, you know what? I figured out what we need to do. We need to hang out outside of work and talk to each other about each other.
And she, frames it in order to get Peter Scolari on board as a executive retreat.
Mm-hmm.
And this is... I don't know, it definitely still exists, right? It definitely still exists, but it seems like came to the forefront in the 90s. 80s had this really toxic corporate culture. But in the 90s, I feel like it was all about, like, how can we make our business better? How can we make our people better, more efficient, blah, 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 blah. And that obviously has turned a little bit, but it's still this really toxic thing. And she gets Peter Scolari on board by saying that Bill Gates does it, which we see a weird technology thing where he storms away, not agreeing to it.
Mm-hmm.
She says Bill Gates does it. She goes to sit down at her computer, and his face pops up on her screen somehow. And he's like, what time are we going to be there? But before that, she's like, we're going to my place.
Which is what gets buy-in from the guys. The guys have no interest in this. They're very busy this weekend. We get some layered blubbering from all of them, and then she's like, in my place, and they're like, we will be there in a second. Can we go now, is what Morley says. So
that was so creepy.
It's just very uncomfortable. And so then we go to commercial after Peter Scolari, because I remember that Fairfork looks past her computer at the office, and I was just like, did they know how stupid this was going to play when they were filming it? Who knows? So we then come back from commercial, and we're at Carrie's house, where Peter Scolari has...
Which looks like a house.
It's totally different from last episode.
But it's an apartment.
Well, it's an apartment in the last... Oh, yeah, she does call it an apartment again.
It's an apartment because when Peter Scolari does show up, because he's running late, he's in a hallway.
Yes.
But this looks like any sitcom house set.
Including a backyard. It looks like the house set. With the exception of not having a laundry room, we're in Everybody Hates Abusive Older Husband territory.
Everybody Loves Raymond?
No. The show we fucking watched, Joe's Life.
Joe's Life.
It looks like Joe's Life. The kitchen. Okay.
It's going to change again, I think, the set.
Oh, God.
Changes again next episode.
Because she moves in with Ben. Okay. Oh, God, she moves in with the guys, and it's like the real world. Okay. So Peter Scolari eventually gets there. There's a bit about Morley eating all the cheese.
Which it seems like he wouldn't, because he's so concerned about his health and his allergies and whatever, that it seems like he would know from watching pornography on the internet that would stop you up. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like a very smart thing. Lactose intolerance is a kind of weird stereotype about nerds. I don't know. Like, it seems like he wouldn't be hogging all the cheese. No. He's hogging all of the cheese.
And it's not... He took, like, these are cheese slices, and he just is holding them for the rest of the episode, inspecting them, eating them.
Smelling them.
Doing a lot of work over there, making his acting...
work.
His improv teacher proud.
Steven Tobolowsky was his improv coach. I'm just making it up.
I'm like, no, he wasn't. Steven Tobolowsky didn't commit suicide in 1995. What are you talking about?
He is an improv guy, though.
Okay. But, yeah, so Peter Scolari shows up, and then she's like, you're late, and he's like, well, to be honest, to be fair to me, I didn't even want to be here. Which would have been funny if it wasn't Peter Scolari, who is atrocious this episode. So then... Somehow we get to her wanting to talk about feelings, and that's what this whole thing is. They need to talk about their feelings and everything. And then it turns into her sort of telling all the guys what their problems are.
Yes.
And she's qualified to do that because she's been to therapy. So Steven Tobolowsky's problem is that he doesn't express his anger correctly.
Is it anger? That's Steven Tobolowsky.
Yeah, it's Steven Tobolowsky.
Okay.
Yeah, his anger.
Yeah. I thought you said Peter Scolari. Sorry.
No.
And she describes, like, in therapy, when you express your emotions, you have this thing called a breakthrough. It's very therapy 101. And he's like, and she's like, Vic, you have these dark sunglasses and you're not willing to express yourself. And is this when he starts expressing himself and his desire to oil her up?
No.
Okay.
That's after the Steven Tobolowsky.
Where he's like, I think I just had a breakthrough.
Right.
Seemingly just to shut her up.
Yeah. And then she rubs him, which I thought was going to go someplace else, but I'm just kind of like, this is so... 95. Didn't Friends start in 95?
You're asking about things that I know nothing about.
I'm just trying to visualize.
I'm so young that I do not remember.
I don't remember when we didn't have female characters whose entire purpose
94.
was to placate men.
94.
94. And ER was 94 as well, which had female characters who did not spend all their time placating men, which is what this show is. It's what a lot of our shows are.
Yeah.
Why do you pick them? Why do you pick shows like that, Emily? It's very strange.
Folks, I've been picking every single show we've watched.
Clearly. Except Fishing with John. You said that show sucked, and I was like, we need to watch it. It's good.
Love John.
At least he didn't come up on your people and places.
Maybe 10 years ago.
Okay. So she talks, then she's like, okay, and now, Corey Feldman, you need to say...
you need to say something nice about somebody in the room.
That you want to do for them or something? It's like fucking weird. I'm like...
She sets him up.
I'm like, is Ben also her therapist who like fucking groomed her? Okay. But
She sets him up so perfectly to talk about how he wants to oil her up.
And that's what he says. And then she's just like, ooh, boundaries. Morley. So this is when it starts to turn. She goes over to Morley and she's just kind of like, you're very self-centered.
Yeah.
All you ever talk about is your like phobias and fears and illnesses. Like, why would you ever talk about anybody else?
Yeah.
And he's like, say something about somebody else. And he's like, I worry that some teenage girl's daughter is going to shoot Corey Feldman while we're filming, and the guy might hit me instead.
Yeah.
And she's like, almost, but not quite there. Does she talk to Scolari then?
I think she talks to Scolari first.
Or she tries to talk to Scolari, but then he turns it back on her.
Okay.
And he's like, you never tell us anything about you.
Yes, that's how he deflects. He keeps saying he's not going to answer questions, and then he deflects and turns it back on her because he is a genius, even if he is
he's just
socially inept.
Genius. Oh, sorry.
Socially inept.
Okay, I mean that's a bit of a stretch. We haven't seen any of their apps yet. Okay, so then they talk about how she's like talks about how she processed her feelings about how they did the background check on Ben.
And how it hurt her, and how the background check on her hurt her, and then she talks about how maybe they did that background check on Ben because they're jealous of Ben, and how that makes her feel uncomfortable.
Which is a weird thing to invite all of your male coworkers over to your home for.
Yeah.
To which Stephen Tobolowsky, in a scene that I imagine the writer of this episode, Bruce Rasmussen, patted himself on the back 30 times for. He's like, you don't get to tell me I can't be jealous.
You don't get to tell me. You want us to talk about our feelings, but then you tell us that our feelings are invalid. He doesn't say invalid. That's more modern parlance. But essentially, that's what he says.
Yeah.
And he's expressing anger, which is exactly what she wanted him to do, and she's like, oh wow, now that's what I call a breakthrough. But absolutely it's a breakthrough, but it totally misses the point that their jealousy is completely inappropriate for the workplace.
Yep. Because they all think we missed the part where Stephen Tobolowsky says, I can't really visualize her with that guy. I always pictured her with somebody.
Oh yeah.
Taller.
And he describes himself.
Yeah, he describes himself, which would be funny in, well, maybe not. Maybe like a Muppet take on this. That'd be funny, maybe. Anyway, maybe not, too. I can see the
Sweetums. I can see Sweetums doing it.
Sweetums or
the little shrimp guy.
Yeah, the little shrimp guy. Or who was Gonzo? Rizzo. Rizzo could do this. Rizzo could do this. Yeah. So, yes, much better show.
We're talking about the Muppets because it's better than this.
Yeah. So, we've now established that all the boys at the office
want to nail her.
They kind of feel entitled to it. She's aware of this and is like, well, we're going to set some boundaries, but not the one where you don't come to my house.
And not the one where you don't find me attractive, which is later.
So, she and Peter Scolari bicker some more as I just sit and think their plan for this show is for the two of them to hook up. They think this is fucking moonlighting 1995 in this shit. Like, they, just the fucking chemistry is just flying here. So then they basically all leave. Why do they all leave?
I think it's just the night is over. I think it's a commercial break, cut back to they're all leaving.
Oh.
And then Peter Scolari is left behind.
Uh-huh.
In which case, Carrie corners him and is like, you still haven't told me anything about yourself.
And he says, well, he had told her before they didn't want to hire her, but he wouldn't tell her why. And
and this is where she's like, I feel like you owe it to me to tell me why.
You owe it to me to tell me why. Is it because she was unqualified? No.
Which is a completely valid reason to not hire her.
Completely valid reason.
But he didn't know that at the time.
I mean, she was bullshitting.
But we never actually even saw it.
Right. He didn't want to hire her. The guys convinced him because he thought she was so attractive that she would be a distraction at the office. But it's okay because he was wrong.
And then he turns out and walks away. Leaving Carrie in stunned silence. And the last words from this episode
This feminist
episode of this feminist television show is, wait, you were wrong about me being attractive or wrong about me being a distraction?
Laugh track. So...
And maybe even like a cut, like an action cut while she's running out the door to catch him.
Maybe. I didn't go back and check. Certainly not a cool pause like in Automan. Damn, what was the name of the cop in Automan? Remember how good the old man was comparatively? Damn, that guy was good. Not the drug captain.
Right.
The dude who was dating all the 30-year-olds.
Yeah. What you're talking about.
So... Great show you picked.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
I just thought I would, like...
Yeah, I mean, you wanted to do something girl boss.
I wanted to do something girl boss. I wanted to expand your horizons. Yep. I wanted to open you up to this wave of feminism that is so often ignored.
Yep. 1995 CBS sitcom feminism. So, I can't wait to see what happens next, because we're just fucking falling like poop down a ladder.
Just like poop down a ladder.
I read a comic from 1993 the other day that basically has Mr. Hanky the Christmas Pooh from South Park. So
that's very weird.
Especially since they hadn't created it themselves yet. Weird.
That's very weird.
Oh, we're spoiling it.
You are going to love this episode. The Birthday Party Show. Carrie invites her reluctant coworkers to her birthday party, where they eventually break out of their party shells. What's going to happen? Oh my God, it's going to be great. We will see the return of the boyfriend. We will see the return of the best friend. Oh yeah, Kathy Griffin. So there's Noreen.
Oh, Noreen. Same actor. Oh.
Andy Berman's back? I don't remember him. He was the computer store geek.
Really? But he's got a name now.
I'm sure he had a name before. But anyway, that'll be great.
Sure it will. Why is Todd? Is Todd the name?
Todd is the name of
what was I called?
I don't remember.
Toby, because he's a laptop. Okay, so yeah, great. This sounds great. I can't wait, Emily.
You're welcome. Just preemptively, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Look at how handsome that man is.
I mean, I would certainly buy some Rogaine from him.
Fair enough. All right. Thank you for joining us, everybody, for this episode of Dweebs.
Oh.
Yes, of Onesies. My other podcast. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't have another one. Andrew, see you in Television Land.
See you in Television Land, Emily.
Yay.
Yay.